What's up, everyone? I'm Jaren, and we are off to a great start at the movies for 2022 as we return to Woodsboro because Ghostface is back, running 25 years strong in the series, the fifth entry, Scream, aka Scream 2022, aka Scream 5? After the passing of Wes Craven, who has directed the first four films, the studio and fans were very unsure if we were ever going to see another installment in the Scream franchise. Harvey Weinstein eventually crashed and burnt, became a pariah in Hollywood, and Paramount bought out Dimension Film Properties, which was Scream. And then we got the writer of Zodiac, the writer of Castle Rock. They got the dual pair who has directed Ready or Not, and we have Scream 5. The story centers around a new generation of teens who are being stalked and attacked by a new Ghostface killer, and in order to uncover their connection with Woodsboro's dark past, is to seek the help of Dewey Riley, Gale Weathers, and Sidney Prescott, the original survivors. So my thoughts are, I absolutely freaking loved it. This has possibly got to be the best entry since the original film. With this type of storytelling, this was something I was actually hoping for in part 4, and you know what? We got it here, so I'm not mad about that. For a sequel reboot, for a movie that stands on its own merits, this is bold, brutal, clever, and absolutely terrifying and outrageously hilarious. This movie could have easily been called Scream 5 instead of being titled Scream. We will get into that in a second. Otherwise, this is not another movie where they retcon all the sequels and just pick up directly after the first one like Halloween, nor is this another movie like Candyman where they want you to be surprised that it is a sequel and we'll just call it by the same thing. And why I think they decided to call it said title was because of our focus on our new generation characters, like Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. They are the heart and soul of this movie. They are the main characters. When Ghostface begins to target and wreak havoc all around this group of friends, all the drama, all the suspense is just focused on these new characters. And it's only like maybe up to maybe 30, 45 minutes until they actually bring in David Arquette's character, who does a lot in this movie. Like, usually he's always the backhand when it comes to the first four films, especially where Sidney and Gale would kind of steal the show, but Dewey had a lot to do in this movie, and that was pretty cool. And then it maybe takes like the last hour to the last 45 minutes till Sidney and Gale actually join in on the plot. And if I'm going to be honest, I actually enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot of our legacy characters got to kind of kick back on this one because they've been through a lot. We don't need to put them through any more crazy shit. And we actually got to flesh out some of the new characters. And of course, not all the new characters are fleshed out properly. Like, there are some who have like a few scenes and then they're just there for the body count. But then there were some surprising performances, especially by Dylan Minnette, Jack Quaid, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, Mikey Madison. And in retrospect of Scream 3 and Scream 4, I actually liked the way that these supporting characters were written. Like, by the time they end up meeting Ghostface and his bloody knife, I just feel so bad to see them go. Now, if you feel tricked by the trailer thinking that Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette were going to be the main characters again, you're going to find the beginning of this movie actually slow. But for those who are open to this new idea, I kind of liked it. I really enjoyed it. Although, not to worry, it's not like their screen time has been reduced to cameos like Terminator Dark Fate or even the new Star Wars trilogy. Now, if there's one thing that has divided its viewers is a lot of the pop culture references and breaking the fourth wall. And you know what? In a lot of the writing, that's just Scream. That's just how this franchise rolls. And especially when they're talking about elevated horror in this one, where they reference movies like The Babadook or It Follows or even The Witch. They take like the whole aspect of requels and elevated horror into this conversation of how Ghostface is attacking with his new rules. It pokes fun at the audience and the horror fans, especially talking about toxic fandom, as well as a lot of horror standards nowadays are all about, afraid to be another sequel in the bunch, but to go back to basics and just start off from the original and work off from the derivative material there. It could get a little heavy-handed sometimes, kind of like Deadpool, where they're already narrating and talking about the things that they're already doing in the movie, within a movie. I felt embarrassed because me getting all the references, I was laughing my ass off, as well as two other people in my crowd. It was a packed theater. Our nerds were really showing. I do wish that when they were laying out all the horror movie rules that they would bring up of how serious horror films are nowadays, because that's kind of how this movie felt like. That might be the only little constraint, that this might not feel like another Wes Craven movie, because this movie did feel very dark, a little serious at times, and somehow vicious. And I get it. It's a new day and age, especially to see Ghostface in this version of Scream. But give it a little more fun. Like, I'm not saying that the movie didn't have jokes. Just at times it really did feel kind of dowrsome. I also enjoyed how some of the things that our characters said or do was kind of like the voice of the audience, because there is a scene, and this is not a spoiler, I'm going to keep it as vague as I can, but there is a scene where a character's phone is going off, and he is trying so hard to turn it off, but his thumbprint is not working, so everybody in my theater was like, throw it! Just throw it! And then he ends up throwing it after, he couldn't get his phone to work. Oh, and I forgot to mention, they got Roger L. Jackson, the voice of Ghostface, to come back, and it's just so awesome to hear his voice again, and especially with the opening sequence where he just has his smooth conversation until he ramps up a lot of the suspense and tension. And it was not since the first one have they ever dragged out a sequence that much, really feeling that nail-biting, very just anxiety-inducing like tension. So what I wanted to talk about is that throughout the years, we all know that there is a stunt performer behind the Ghostface mask, and that it is not the actual actors who reveal to be the killer that are actually doing a lot of the stunt work. And it is kind of interesting to see that even in this version, that Ghostface does struggle to kind of nail some of the victims just at first round. Like, you see there are some struggles, and there is a little more fight in some of our main characters than there has been with the other victims and the other supporting cast members. And I kind of like that. It kind of had a little more brutality and a little more vulnerability between Ghostface and the person that he was attacking. And I thought that was kind of interesting. All in all, I'd have to say that the Radio Silence directors have done a tremendous job to make this movie feel like another piece of Wes Craven's legacy. And that is hard to do. That is a lot of pressure, and I give them so much props. And as far as bringing conclusion to stories, the new Star Wars trilogy, take notes. This is how you pass the torch. And that's what I love about this movie. I love that this movie sort of feels like goodbye, but as well as feeling like a brand new chapter. There is some great nostalgia to be enjoyed, as well as some nice Easter eggs and tiny callbacks that don't bug you as much as Matrix Resurrections, but will just kind of put a little smirk on your face. Alright guys, I'm going to stop talking about this movie because deep down, I just want to talk about spoilers. But I won't. I'm going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt and leave you guys up to watch this movie yourselves, because there's nothing better than to go into a Scream movie with a blank slate. Heck, don't even watch the trailers. And even the trailers did a good job in keeping some things under wraps, by the way. As always, I'm Jaren Ugbanawag. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look forward to more reviews, and I will see you guys at the movies. Okay, bye.